most people shrug off the odds of an impact, most scientists who study the subject agree that a hit is inevitable. It's just a matter of when, and the odds are that our planet is overdue for a major hit. This book is about Jimi's prediction of when, made at a time when just a tiny handful of people were even thinking about asteroids. By contrast, after Rock Prophecy was copyrighted in 1995, the asteroid issue was hyped up to the #1 topic of discussion in the late 1990s to such an extent that today an explanation is needed about how this story is the source for the media's frenzy. There is evidence. Consider how not a single media report listed on our website timeline mentions the occasional book about asteroids like Lucifer's Hammer from 1977 or The End of an Age from 1987. The few books such as these are not contenders against Rock Prophecy as the triggers that instigated the craze in media for asteroids in the late 1990s. And regardless, the whole issue of who started this is just a small fraction of my book. This is not a story about who started it, and it's not about how I personally was treated by the Microsoft dominators who took my ideas and then ran with the asteroid stories in media. The book is an interpretation of history, defining a faith in unexpected ways with unprecedented connections. Now, my critics will attribute the asteroid frenzy to any story about space rocks reported before 1995. That's exactly what Dominator Media has taken pains to persuade everyone of. They'll say the craze was caused by anything other than this book. As Elaine Pagels has said, it's the winners who write history, their way. Rock Prophecy is not their way. The book describes how these people have caused the impact disaster we're going to see. So Rock Prophecy is being suppressed by a media elite who have instead presented a false history of asteroid awareness. But another version of history exists, and it's not some dominator winner's delusion, it's the truth. Rock Prophecy is the original trigger for an avalanche of asteroid stories in recent media. The timing is the key to consider. News of Jimi's prediction appeared in 1995, prior to the media's binge on space rocks. And with Paul Allen's involvement in the Hendrix-Microsoft lawsuit, why wouldn't that legal team monitor my stories? I was the writer for the Hollywood Hendrix company they were suing. These people found out what I discovered, and their media companies began pumping out stories about it. For the historical record, we would have seen no media overexposure of asteroids had not the Hendrix connection with this issue been seen here at the Library of Congress in spring of 1995. To claim otherwise is to subscribe to a dominator version of history, a revisionist rewrite, false portrayal of what happened. Now, audiences in the past have regarded asteroid stories as science fiction. Even the impact of a comet on Jupiter in July of '94 was a passing attraction. Media dropped that story the next day. No one seemed interested in dwelling on rocks from space. But then 15 months later, everything changed. After Rock Prophecy was seen, it was as if the men who controlled media had issued a decree, do up the asteroid story big time. Starting in throughout 1996, it started in autumn of 95 and throughout 1996, a rising tide of reports about rocks in space flooded the airwaves. The hysteria climaxed back in February of 97 when TVs were overloaded with scenes of NBC's Asteroid miniseries. And then another year of overblown reports fueled the 1998 Hollywood blockbusters Armageddon and Deep Impact. Now, Paul Allen and money from Microsoft were deeply involved in these projects. But prior to 1995, we were exposed only slightly to stories about asteroid disasters. The media didn't run with the story until autumn of '95, about 6 months after Jimi's prediction was seen at the Library of Congress. It was then that media moguls began churning out endless stories about asteroids. My manuscript was read by their consultants. The law allows anyone to read research filed at the Library of Congress. Suddenly, network executives and media financiers, they ordered a field day on asteroid stories. They learned what this book reveals, and they decided to warn the public in a way that excludes the Hendrix connection. In fact, they had to exclude the Hendrix connection because the way Jimi presents his vision is narrow enough so that anyone else who explains this in published form will very likely violate my copyright. Copyright laws don't protect ideas, but they do protect the expression of an idea, and there's no other way to execute the explanation of Jimi's words other than what's in this book. So when dominators can't steal credit for an idea, they just deny that the idea is credible. And when moguls start producing Asteroid stories, they prevent any mention of the Hendrix connection that started this, which is why I'm here today to proclaim that connection. Back in Valentine's Day of 2001, NASA landed a spacecraft on an asteroid for the first time. The asteroid is named Eros, the Greek word for love. So NASA made a landing for Valentine's Day. As Rock Prophecy points out, Jimi Hendrix had a name for the asteroid that will hit Earth. The name he gave it was Electric Love. Now when NASA landed their spacecraft on Eros, or Love, Bill Gates went here to the Hendrix Museum in Seattle to announce that Microsoft's Windows operating system will now be titled XP, which stands for Experience, which you may know is the name of Jimi Hendrix's band, the Jimi Hendrix Experience. So here is Bill Gates at the Hendrix Museum saying the new name for Windows is XP, meaning Experience, just when NASA lands a spacecraft on an asteroid for the first time for Valentine's Day, and the name of the asteroid is Eros, for love, which is the name Hendrix gave to the asteroid that will hit Earth. Now, while the XP Experience operating system was being developed at Microsoft, that project had a code name inside the company. You know what that code name was? Originally, it was Asteroid. Can you get the connections? Eros, love, electric love. Name Hendrix gave to an asteroid. Bill Gates at the Hendrix Museum for Valentine's Day announcing XP, meaning experience, like Hendrix Experience. While at the same time NASA lands on an asteroid for the first time for Valentine's Day, and asteroid is named Eros for love, and Windows XP was originally titled Asteroid. Now, to me, the meaning of this seeming coincidence is that Microsoft learned from me to associate Hendrix with asteroids, and then Microsoft media partners ran with my asteroid ideas, while Paul Allen's money at Microsoft destroyed my career at the Hendrix Company after I worked a long time to make the best Hendrix collections available to his museum here in Seattle, which refused to pay me for all of my work. Now, incidentally, when Windows XP was released, Bill Gates chose to release that on October 25th, which is the anniversary of the day my Rock Prophecy website went online. And the 1997 TV miniseries named Asteroid from Microsoft's NBC media partner mentioned earlier, the space rock that impacts our planet in that NBC miniseries is the Eros asteroid. Now, the beauty of this for Bill Gates' partner is that it's complex enough for many people to not want to try to see the cause for all this, which is Rock Prophecy. In the face of anything complex, your detractors will just feign ignorance, even though they really see the meaning of this. They'll just laugh and say, "Oh, that's too deep for me, man." Some will label me a paranoid for pointing out a conspiracy theory, and they'll deny that the connections are real. Right? Like a conspiracy theory, to me it seems the biggest critics of conspiracy theories are often conspirators and people who like to conspire. But this is not a conspiracy theory. It's an institutional analysis. We're analyzing facts about the institutions of Microsoft in the media. Now, officials at Microsoft are amused by their treatment of me because they know that many people won't believe that they, as wealthy moguls, would care what I say. Now, Microsoft controls enough media to be able to put their spin on this for people who praise them and think it's good to be as moneyed as they are. But Paul Allen and his media are like unjust moneyed murderers of Earth who have killed everything we care for. Within 2 weeks of Bill Gates' announcement at the Hendrix Museum, Seattle was hit by one of the biggest earthquakes in that state's history. We can expect more where that came from. Teams of publicists at think tanks are paid by these moguls to find ways to use the media to neuter any effect that the real story around Hendrix will stir. That story is Rock Prophecy, and it reveals how a wealthy clan of anti-equality dominators have arranged a situation where today's society is unable to raise a defense in time to stop the rock that Jimi saw hurtling towards Earth.